Alright, so in recent videos, I've been talking a lot about career advice. But honestly, the only reason I'm grinding so hard to build my career is so I can retire young. I don't want to retire at 65, or God forbid, after 65. In fact, I want to retire at 50 at the absolute latest. Ideally, I want to start winding things down by the time I'm 40. And so, obviously, that's a very ambitious plan, especially in this day and age where expenses are at all-time highs and home ownership is essentially out of the question for the majority of the population. So this plan mostly rests on my financial strategy over the next decade. So here's what I'm doing as a 20-year-old, and here's what you can try as well. Because the last thing you want is to get stuck in the rat race forever. Now, obviously, disclaimer, as I am only 20 years old, this plan is subject to change, but here is my plan as of right now. And so I'll come back to this over the next few years and I'll see how it evolves. But the most foundational thing to my plan is basic financial literacy. Don't spend more than you make. It's simple, but most people ignore it, or most people don't even understand it. It is so important to try to create as wide a gap as possible between your income and your expenses, and that is how you stop bleeding money and actually start building wealth. So as I'm in a very fortunate situation where I'm able to live with my family and able to support rent with my own income, that means I'm able to have a very minimal expense each month. This means that going forward, I'm going to be able to save or invest over 70% of my income each month. And that is crucial. That's the first step. But the second step also, it means avoiding debt. I've never and will never use Klarna or Afterpay or any other of those predatory credit services, even stuff like payday loans. I will never touch it if I can help it. Now, obviously, I know for a lot of people, they don't have a choice. That's a whole other matter, but for me in my situation and my plan, I am never going to be in debt. The only debt I have right now is student loan debt, but I nearly have enough cash to pay it off at any given time, so that kind of nullifies the issue. That said, I do have a credit card and I use it for everything, but only if I have the money sitting in my checking account to pay it off in full. That way, I'm building a good credit score while I'm young. And so when it comes time to get a mortgage or a car loan, if I am going to get a car loan, I don't know, I'd probably also just pay for that up front. I can qualify for a good rate. And so essentially, bottom line, I will never use borrowed money to finance a lifestyle I cannot afford. My whole plan is to live frugally and give up my ego and give up any notions of putting on a show or putting on a look for other people. I don't care about that. I will live like I'm a hobo as long as it means I'm building wealth. So what I'm doing right now as I'm starting my wealth building journey is essentially limiting my non-essential spending to under $100 a month. This means I might pick up a video game I'm interested in once in a while, or I might go out to eat with my friends once in a while, or maybe we're going to go do some sort of experience, like going to some sort of arcade or laser tag or whatnot. This also means that I'm taking the bus and I'm not driving. Currently, I do have my driver's license, but I don't have a car because honestly, if I can take a bus somewhere, it's cheaper than having a car. I mean, just with insurance alone, it is financially irresponsible, in my opinion, to own a car, unless you absolutely need it. There's this guy I know, and he told me a story about how he got in a car crash, where essentially a car rammed him from behind, and his car got rammed by result into a car in front of him. So he basically got sandwiched. But because of the amazing Canadian insurance laws, he was held liable for the guy he hit in front of him, even though he wasn't even responsible. Well, the bottom line now is he pays over $1,000 more per year because of that. That is insane. He drives a car worth $5,000, and now he pays about 20% of the car's value more than he was already paying. And he was already paying several $1,000s a year in insurance. Seriously, that is financially irresponsible if you can help it. So, as long as I can help it, I'm going to be taking the bus, and especially not touching Uber. Uber is a black hole for cash, and that also extends to stuff like Uber Eats or DoorDash. Those things are black holes. If you are serious about building wealth, those things need to be the plague to you. You cannot touch them. I mean, to offer another story, I have a friend who constantly DoorDashes food. And well, suffice to say, he never hangs out with me and my other friends anymore because he literally cannot afford to go out because he spends hundreds or even thousands of dollars each month DoorDashing. Why would you do that to yourself? That is financially crippling yourself for instant gratification when you can take an extra 15 minutes to go get the food yourself if you really want to eat out. Furthermore, I'm not doing what every other 20-something-year-old is doing by traveling the world and blowing my student loan money on a $10,000 Europe trip. Sure, experiences like that matter, and it's important to see the world and learn cultures and see what's out there. But doing that when you have negative net worth and you are in debt for student loans and then spending that loan money on something like that, that is so irresponsible, it makes my stomach churn. How can people do that to themselves? If you have student loan debt, you should not be doing that. And I know it sucks, but that's the world we live in. We can't be throwing our money away like that. Money is time, and by spending it, you are losing time. You spend time to make it. Why are you wasting that time by spending it on overpriced things when you still have debt like student loans, car loans, a mortgage? Or if you were trying to get a mortgage, then why are you blowing your potential down payment on something like that? And sure, I will admit experiences matter. I do spend money on movies and, like I said, like arcades and stuff around town, but I would never spend thousands of dollars on a single thing. Not at this stage in life. I mean, I know a guy who's doing that with a vacation. He's spending over $10,000 on a Japan trip, and, well, I could never. He's already drowning in student loan debt. I don't know why he would do that to himself. And I know I'm hating on a lot of people here, but honestly, it's just a little bit of a rant because the financial irresponsibility is ridiculous. School never taught us how to handle money. That doesn't give people the excuse to be financially idiotic. So instead, I'm living as cheaply as possible. I am leaning on my family as much as I can, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I am giving up my ego. I plan to live with them for the next 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years until I'm 30 years old. And I know a lot of you guys are going to roll your eyes when you hear that. But this is my plan for financial freedom. This is about giving up ego. This is not caring about what other people think. This is not pursuing freedom at the cost of my entire paycheck to pay rent. And sure, you might be able to argue that living with your family prevents you from growing up and meeting new people and potentially even, getting a girlfriend. But honestly, I don't care. Living with my family into my late 20s, that's not failure. That's strategy. And I'm not too proud to take the smart path. I'm not trying to be a financial idiot by trying to prove something that nobody worthwhile even cares about. I will stay at home, and I will share the family car when I absolutely need it. And all those savings are going to be invested. I mean, so far, about 95% of my net worth is tied up in investments, which are especially in tax-advantaged accounts. And this is because I recognize that early 20-year-olds have something that is more valuable than anything else in the universe. Time. When you're 20 years old, let's just say you live to 80, you have 60 years of compound interest in front of you. You have the ability to leverage time. That is your greatest asset. It's not the money, it's the time. You got 4, 5, 6, 7 decades to let this money compound in the market, and that is seriously powerful. I mean, with that much time, how can you not become a millionaire? And not even a millionaire at this point, because $1 million isn't a lot these days anymore, but a multi-millionaire, something like $3, $4, $5, $6 million. And that brings me over to my next topic, which is what I'm actually investing in. And I think this is worth bringing up as well, because we're starting to evolve, or maybe even devolve, I would argue, into a gambling culture, especially in America. Not so much in Canada, but it is still unfortunately present here as well. Because I see a lot of people looking for get-rich-quick schemes, playing Polymarket. I mean, seriously, there were millions and millions of dollars in Polymarket for the Canadian election a couple months ago. Millions of dollars, and half the people lost everything when one of the candidates lost the election. That's just straight up gambling. Polymarket is gambling. Obviously, something like Stake. I mean, if you're on Stake, I'm sorry, but you are an actual idiot. Why are you gambling your money away like that? You are burning money when you could be investing in something valuable. Because, I mean, I don't know if I need to say this for the millionth time, but the house always wins, so it's not even worth trying. And there's also sports betting and, everything else. Like, that's not okay. And then there's also crypto, where there's a bunch of meme coins, shit coins, pump and dump schemes. I mean, the frickin' president of the United States did a meme coin, right? I don't even need to tell you about that. And how many people lost all of their life savings because of stuff like that? You can't take that risk. You need to be financially responsible. And so that means tried and trusted, through and through, proven methods of accumulating wealth. That means S&P 500, and I'm also going to be a little bit out there and also saying Bitcoin. So at this point, I have the majority of my investments in the S&P 500, or like, an equivalent ETF of that. Because I know I'm not the 1% that can beat the market like Warren Buffett does. I am not Warren Buffett. I'm a regular dude. So why am I going to be such a narcissist and think that I can beat the market? I'm not going to be able to beat the market. Neither are you. If you could beat the market, you would have done it already, and you wouldn't be watching this video. Just buy the generalized, well-diversified, very boring ETF, especially when the market is down. If the market is down, that means you should be buying. If the market is up, that means you should be buying. You should always be buying. Even with these stupid talks about a recession, you should still be buying. Stocks will always go back up. That's just the economy. And if the economy doesn't go back up, then honestly, you have bigger problems to worry about. And so, just buy the ETF. Buy the ETF that represents the market. You will make money over time. It's 10% per year on a long enough time horizon. That is a lot of money. That is serious compounding. And besides that, I also have a bit of a moonshot play with Bitcoin. I mean, in recent years, Bitcoin has sort of stabilized. It's almost like a logarithmic curve where the longer time goes on, the less it goes up. But still, there's a lot of upside still on the table. I believe that. Bitcoin is starting to become very mainstream, but you still have a chance to get in before everybody else does. And so, that's my dream money. It's Bitcoin. It's not because I'm a crypto bro, but it's because I see what's happening and I'm playing the long game. Worst case, I lose about 25% of the money I invest. Best case, I can buy my house a decade early. And that's basically it. I am investing my down payment money into something like Bitcoin, and I will buy my house in 10 to 20 years from now. It is, I would argue, worth taking the risk on something like Bitcoin because people like us, we have such a massive time horizon to make up the potential losses. And especially with something like a down payment, the more your down payment is, the less your mortgage per month is going to be, and that is going to free you up to have more financial leeway each month. And you're not going to be one of those people that has to pay 50, 60, 70% of their income on their mortgage. Like, that's ridiculous. No, so if you can get like 20 to 50% of the house's value in a down payment, that is big, that is huge. And that is my goal, especially with Bitcoin. So that's my strategy. For the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years, whatever, I'm going to live with and support my family. I'm going to save massively. And my goal is to accrue $100,000 within the next 2 years in net worth. And then a $150,000 minimum down payment for a house. Which in Canada, that's a really small down payment, which is so sad. But, I'm kind of counting on the housing market crashing at some point, so we'll see. But of course, plans can change. I mean, you make plans and God laughs, right? But that's my current goal, and I will slave away in my 20s to live like a king in my 30s. And it's like one of my mentors put it. You either live like a king when you're young, and then work like a dog when you're older, or you can work like a dog now when you're young, and then live like a king when you're older. Well, I choose the latter. I'm gonna work like a dog in my 20s, but in my 30s, I'm gonna live like a king. That means no instant gratification. That means 40, 50, 60-hour work weeks when I'm 20. Yeah, I'm giving up the best years of my life, but I am going to live lavishly in my 30s and 40s and 50s and so forth. So that's the goal. And if I make it, it won't be luck because I stayed disciplined, avoided dumb debt, and played the long game. There's no shortcuts to this. There's no get-rich-quick schemes. Shitcoins will bankrupt you, and penny stocks will ruin you. Options trading, that's just straight up gambling as well. Don't touch that. Just invest in the diversified market funds like the S&P 500 or XEQT or whatever, and enjoy that 10% gain each year over the long run. Anyway, that's my thoughts. And maybe I'm a fool, so let me know what you think and what your plans are for your 20s. Do you have any financial ambitions? Or if you're older, do you have any wisdom to impart? I would love to hear it. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.